Hi everyone, I'm Matt Colgan, Show Director for Homebuyer Show Scotland, and you're listening to the Homebuyer Show Scotland Stories podcast. During our podcast series, we'll bring a selection of subject matter experts onto the show to discuss the big issues facing Scottish homebuyers and try to help arm you with the knowledge to make your next move as easy and stress-free as possible. First off, for those of you not as familiar with Homebuyer Show Scotland as you should be, Homebuyer Show Scotland is the only show in Scotland dedicated to the home buying process and is designed to help buyers find their next home or mortgage, arming them with all the information they need to make it possible. On the day of the show, within our exhibitor zone, home buyers of all types can meet with a range of property sales and services, whether that be an estate agent or house builder to find their next home, or a mortgage lender or solicitor to help them get their finances and any legalities sorted. Alongside our exhibitor zone, we'll have a day packed with seminar talks from industry experts, which will provide answers to the most important questions facing Scottish home buyers, such as, is now the right time to buy? What's the deal with green mortgages? And where's the next up and coming area to buy? The show itself will take place in Glasgow Royal Concert Hall on Saturday, the 20th of April, 2024. Without further ado, let me introduce you to a pair of expert panelists. First up, we have John O'Malley, Chief Executive of Pacitti Jones. Pacitti Jones are a leading estate agent and firm of solicitors in the Glasgow and West Central Scotland property market. They provide a bespoke buying and selling service for their customers. As a firm of solicitors regulated by the Law Society of Scotland, they also provide a first-class conveyancing service. And virtually, alongside John, is Tanya Fowling, Senior Sales Manager at Stuart Milne Homes Scotland. Stuart Milne Homes are one of the UK's leading independent home building, construction and development companies, established in 1975 and still family owned. I'll shortly pass over to their experts who have a wealth of experience in working with home sellers and home buyers, as the two are often one and the same. In fact, home movers account for approximately 50% of all Scottish home loans, according to Bank of Scotland, with house prices paid by home movers in Scotland up 5% in the last year. It's never been more important for home sellers to maximise the sales price they get for their property to boost the coffers when buying their next home. But how do they do it? And what are the options available to them? Let's go to John first with the big question and why we're all here today. John, what can sellers do to maximise the sales price received for their property?
First of all, hi Matt, thanks for having us. Yes, it's a question that people are always asking, and probably the simplest answer is, at the start, curbside appeal really matters. So when somebody drives up in front of your house, it's making sure that from the outside, the house is looking as good as possible, whether it needs a fresh coat of paint, whether there's lighting outside needing fixed, the garden, it's an absolute must. It's got to be tidy. The amount of people that don't take the effort and time to tidy up the garden, and first impressions matter so much. Beyond the garden, it's really important as well for the house to be decluttered. Again, it's got to be neat, tidy and clean. It's so important the house is clean. We've had problems in houses in the past where people aren't keeping some of the rooms clean, particularly the bathrooms, and honest to goodness, it's just the worst sight for somebody coming in to buy a property. If you go in and see a bathroom which isn't clean, it puts people off. And we have had people walk out of viewings at the sight of that. So it's so important that a home seller takes their time to make sure their house is looking absolutely as clean as possible and decluttered. And your version of decluttered might not be good enough. We've had an example in the past where a home seller, we advised them to clean up their garden, and they got a skip and they got rid of an awful lot of stuff and waste in their garden. And ultimately, when their house didn't sell for the price that they were hoping for, one of the explanations we gave them was the garden wasn't decluttered. And they said to us, but we got rid of a skip load of waste. They did, but there was still probably a skip load of waste left in the garden. And these things absolutely matter to people. You know, for photographs, if you've got a really nice property and you've cleaned it, get the photographs right. But if you're sat there with a photograph on our website or anybody else's website and the garden's a mess, it puts people off.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where absolutely get rid of any mess and clutter. I can totally see that. But it's kind of how far do you go as well? Would you say keep a bit of personality? Obviously, if you've got pictures of the family and what have you, keep those up. You don't need to create a kind of completely neutral looking house, a boring house, you might say, and leave a bit of personality.
Yes, I agree. I mean, if you look at, for instance, the properties that Stuart Milne will do, you'll see the main property, the
The show home.
Sorry. Couldn't think. You see the show home looking immaculate, but it's not devoid of character and colour. So it is so important you've got that. By the same token, you need to make sure you've got rid of anything which someone else might find offensive. We have had an example where we've had our professional photographer out, a lovely property, all the photos were taken, and unfortunately the home seller didn't remove an item which is offensive to certain people, and unfortunately we missed it in our reviews, and it was only once it was up on our website somebody phoned up to complain. Now thankfully we took swift action and we managed to get rid of it, had whole new photos done, but ultimately the property wasn't on the market for as long as it should have been initially, and it delayed things by another few days. So it's been sensible to declutter, leave some personality, but remove anything which anybody could possibly find offensive, because we live in a day and age where people will take offence at an awful lot of things. So keep it safe, keep it neutral, and just be sensible about it.
I always like the saying, declutter, don't depersonalise totally, is quite a good rule of thumb, I think.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think, John, you mentioned the importance of good photography. From my own experience, if you're looking for a property online, the search is starting there. Then if there's no photos or photos of messy rooms, we've touched on that already, then you're turned off immediately. So once you've kind of attracted someone to the point of coming to view the property, then you've succeeded in the first step, if you like, and then it's about appealing to all the other senses and not turning them off. As you say, John, bad smells, whether that be cigarettes, toilet smells, greasy cooking, what have you, it's trying to get nicer scents and aromas and baked bread and things like that, right? Any other top tips of what to do within the property to make it look and appeal to the senses?
Yeah, it's absolutely critical that it does smell fresh. And the other thing which really matters, particularly as you get into the winter evenings, is that it's bright and airy. So if it's an evening viewing, get all your lights on. It's so important when somebody comes in that they feel as though the room is spacious. So have all the lights on in the house. You might not normally have that on, and I know it's not great for the environment, but you're trying to maximise your value of your property and you'll get one shot at it. Get all the lights on. Make sure, exactly as you've said, that the house is cleared out, it's fresh, it's smelling fresh. You don't need the windows open, you don't want it to be cold, neither do you want it too warm. But a nice temperature where people are comfortable and they can see that the house is bright, airy. These things make people more likely to put an offer in, and the more people that are willing to put an offer in, the better chance you've got of achieving your expectations or preferably something beyond that.
Absolutely. And we talked about the internal, how the house smells, looks, externally as well, the garden being nicely cut and the hedges being trimmed, things like that. If you've got a pet or a dog, I remember viewing a property and standing in dog mess in the garden, which is not the kind of impression that you want to leave. So it's that kind of thing, making sure everything's clean and tidy, isn't it?
But also pets for viewings as well. Sometimes it can take offence, but it's best that pets are taken out when viewings are taking place. If, like John's saying, you get one shot at it, that one viewer could be your buyer. You really want to give it its best shot, but, they maybe don't like dogs or they maybe don't like cats.
Or an allergy.
Yeah, or an allergy, exactly.
Kind of follow-up question I've got on all of that, of making your house look its best in its current form. It's the thought around doing work to your house. There's two parts to this. One is doing more serious structural changes and things with a view to maximising the sale price, or there's more smaller works, whether it be updating kitchen cabinets or replacing handles, making it look a bit classier, and finding that right balance. Have you any kind of advice on those areas?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it is a question lots of people ask, Matt. Generally speaking, and it's slightly different if you're doing an extension. Generally speaking, the only building you'll get your money back on if you're doing an extension is additional bedrooms. If you're building an extension, you're increasing the square footage downstairs. As a general rule of thumb, it's really tough to get all that money back. If you put an extra bedroom into the property, it's likely you will. Looking at an existing property, the best money you can spend is coming back to the start. It's the curb appeal and making the house look nice. So I don't necessarily think it's worth your while putting a new kitchen in. The issue you've got is the kitchen you design or you put in, the colour scheme might not be to somebody else's cup of tea. And if you go and spend £10,000 on a new kitchen, you might not see that money back. It's a real gamble. If you spend, £5,000 in painting the house, having the grass the garden redone a little bit, etc., more than likely you'll get that money back, because it comes back to the first impression. So I think people need to be careful what they spend the money on. Anything which is snagging that you've been annoyed about for a long time you haven't done, you've really got to get that sorted, because people notice. But investing a whole lot of money in a brand new kitchen or a brand new bathroom isn't going to get you your money back unless those rooms are really dated. If they're really dated, then absolutely change them. I mean, there's some rooms you go into where it still looks as though it's not been updated since the 70s. That puts people off. So that type of area, that type of view, you really want to update. But on the whole, for most properties, I don't think redoing the kitchen or the bathroom is going to get you your money back.
Right. And whenever you've done work, I mean, I've done work in the past on a property I've bought, and the Zoopla, which is a tool that people go and find out the value of a property, doesn't update. Is that something that you can get Zoopla to update, that actually can guide people as to the true value of your home? Or how important is that, and what do we do there?
To be honest, we don't use that at all. We do, as part of our package with Zoopla, have that information, and we find it wholly inaccurate.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Zoopla says that my house is worth this amount.
Yeah.
No.
It's quite a range sometimes, but it's just quite slightly depressing when if you've spent, $100,000 doing your kitchen, diner, or whatever, and it's still showing the same old value. You wonder, is that going to put people off coming if they're checking the sales price versus Zoopla estimate?
To be honest, for us, we don't have many people that look at what Zoopla or any other portals telling them. If there are people who are savvy enough to go looking, they will go and look at what sold prices have been in their actual area. So some people have an idea of what a neighbouring property is sold for, but they don't go using Zoopla's tool or any other portal's tool to try and figure it out. Not in our experience. Yeah. And as I said, when Zoopla are trying to convince us to use their tools, we just find the figures that come out of their algorithm are wholly inappropriate. Whether it's way too high or way too low doesn't matter. It is not a metric that any estate agent that I'm aware of uses at all.
You mentioned, John, the importance of good photos. What about videos?
Yes, videos are very good if they're done well. If they're not done well, please don't do them. The other thing which we certainly find from our customer base is the virtual tours aren't really of interest to people now, that they don't like having to click and walk through a house. So if you're going to do a video, it needs to be quite seamless, and the video needs to be able to just operate like a normal video on YouTube, that they don't have to click anything. They can watch it, but you can't have the video too long. If you're getting up to 1 to 2 minutes, people start to struggle. So the virtual tours aren't something we would recommend to MD. A video, yes, provided it's done professionally, it looks good, it's got good lighting, and it is a genuine video rather than a virtual tour. We don't believe videos are necessary for every property. There's some where the photographs, if they're done well, are good enough, and people are quite happy clicking through photographs, but they really don't want to click through virtual tours.
Interesting. Any other points from you, John, from your experience that you want to highlight?
The other thing I think which is relevant is where you price your property. The offers over is a bit of a unique situation to Scotland and does confuse buyers from south of the border or to national buyers. Whether it's the best solution, I'm not here to comment on, but it is very, very prevalent in Scotland. And generally speaking, getting your offers over, pricing right is key, because it does impact the number of people that will see your property. Most buyers, when they're searching either on our own website or a portal's website, will put in price ranges. And if you put your price too high or too low, you're going to miss out on some potential viewers. So it does matter that you get that right. Absolutely take advice. And it also is really, really important, whoever you're using, that you use somebody who's got local market knowledge. It really does matter when you're doing a negotiation, that people know how many properties have sold recently. They've got a buyer list in front of them. They know how many people have been on their website looking at these types of properties. And having that local knowledge is absolutely critical. And I do think you'll get a better outcome if you are working with a negotiator who knows the area, has experience, and is busy. i.e. they know where the market is, they know how many customers are likely to be interested in buying. They can give you the right advice as to when you go to a closing date. And also, if somebody pops up and makes you an offer before a closing date, they're there to give you the advice as to whether it's worth looking at, worth accepting, or worth just passing on.
Yeah, so absolutely. And then I guess that's where the City Jones can help, finding a good estate agent, an expert with the local knowledge who can give you that guidance, negotiation tips, insider knowledge, what everything's selling for in the local area. area, I think that should be invaluable.
Yeah, and one last thing, I think it is important, obviously, we've got a 35-year plus track record. We're well known, we've got a good reputation. There are other estate agents as well. There are other good estate agents around. The one thing I would just be wary of for people is the online only estate agents don't have that local expertise. But we're not nationwide across Scotland. We don't cover certain areas, and we're not going to be able to be the right choice for people there. I do honestly believe you're better off with somebody who knows the market intimately, locally, lives in the area, and I don't think people get that. It might be the cheapest solution they want, and that's fine, but I do think they should be looking at using local people to sell their properties.
Well, absolutely, good point. That's fantastic. And that's kind of really covered everything from the direct or more standard house sales. We wanted then to move on to another option, which Tanya's going to elaborate on, which is part exchange, because this is another option available to home movers or home sellers, which can also be a good one. And it's just understanding, really, Tanya, when is it the right option? And maybe even to start with, what is it?
So part exchange is not like part exchanging your car, because I think a lot of people sometimes can get a bad rep, and I don't know why. But I'm quite passionate about part exchange and the tool that it is to unlock buyers being able to make that next move. I've been at Stuart Milne for 13 years, I think it is, and I was in the part exchange department for 7 of those. So I've seen a good market and I've seen a bad market, and how part exchange can differ in those two markets. But essentially, if you have a home to sell and you're not free to buy without having to sell that home, then part exchange, you would go to the builder. So for example, Stuart Milne, you would come to us and we would get an estate agent out, an independent estate agent. We would get a home report done at our cost. And they would provide us with figures on what your home is worth and what it's going to sell in, just say, circa 8 to 10 weeks. Then we then package it up and basically make you an offer. The way I see it, part exchange, quite simply, is we are a cash buyer and we've got the cash. There's no buyer behind us. It's literally, here's a cash offer for your home to enable you to buy our home.
Yeah. And I mean, is there much variation between part exchanging with Stuart Milne and part exchanging with other house builders, or is it all pretty standardized?
I think it's pretty standard. I would imagine there would be different processes, but really the concept is the same. If you have, like I said, a home to sell, you go to a builder, they will make you an offer for that home in order for you to buy whatever home with them. So no, I think the concept is pretty much the same.
Yeah. So part exchange can be a better option
if you're struggling to sell. So if you've been on the market for a wee while and you're maybe in a market that's not as buoyant as some other areas in Scotland, we have people come to us and they've been on the market for 6 months sometimes, and they're desperate to move, but they just can't find a buyer. So it's a great tool for them. Also, you've got young families who don't want the hassle of having to get estate agencies out and get all that kind of side of things done. It kind of takes all of that hassle away. So for someone like myself who's got young children, that would be a huge plus for me, because I know that it's going to get taken care of. Someone else is going to do it and I don't have to worry about that side of it. I just have to worry about my new home. So it's got benefits there as well. You're unlocking, you don't have the marketing fees and the estate agency fees, because they're paid for by 9 times out of 10 the builder. So for example, if you were doing part exchange with Stuart Milne, we pay the marketing and estate agency fees. And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but estate agency fees at the moment could be around 1 to 1.5%.
Yes, that's about right, Tanya.
Yeah. So you're saving a good few £1,000s anyway, as well as your photos, your schedules, your estate agency side of it, all the admin side of things. So it's a saving as well. You're saving money.
I think also from our side of things, where we see a real benefit in that is buyers who know what they actually want, and there's a particular property or a particular plot they want in a particular site. And particularly in my own experience, driven by my wife, she really wanted a particular plot in a particular site, and that type of buyer, it gives them certainty. Sometimes people don't want to put down a £1,000, £2,000, £5,000 reservation fee until they know they can sell their house. Yeah. So it does give certainty for people who want specific properties or specific property types on specific sites. So I do think in that scenario, it is a hugely helpful tool for certain buyers.
I think as well, certainty on dates as well. If you, like I said, if you're a young family and you're trying to work your dates out for when you're going to move, but if you haven't done the part exchange and you're selling independently, trying to coordinate that is quite a headache. Whereas if you're doing a part exchange with a builder, then you've got your date. You're not going to be made homeless. That's your date. And should that part exchange go on to be resold while you are still there, you're not going to be made homeless. You will always be the priority. So it gives you guarantee around dates as well, which I think is really important for a buyer.
Yeah, that certainty I think is fantastic, because we're also a law firm, and the amount of times we see chains falling through and the hurt and the anguish and the stress it causes people, particularly if they are buying, got another side of it to buy a property. So having certainty and knowing that regardless of what happens with your own property, you're moving into that new home on a certain date does take away an awful lot of stress for people, and is a valuable offering.
And it's, John, it's something that I am seeing more and more is, and I don't know if it's just the way the market is at the moment across Scotland, but there does seem to be a wee trend of chains falling apart and buyers getting cold feet, and then so I'm seeing it more and more. I kind of see it as a bit of a trend of buyers pulling out of offers, whereas you do the part exchange, you've got a complete guaranteed buyer.
Tanya, you're dead right. In our legal side, the amount of fall throughs has massively increased. I'm talking about it's gone up probably about 100% in the last 3 or 4 months. And we all know what's causing it. It's the higher interest rates, it's the economy, the cost of living, inflation, etc. But yes, without a shadow of a doubt, there are way more fall throughs in the last 3-4 months than there were since COVID started.
Absolutely, and I think that what I'm saying about I've been seen part exchange over the last 13 years, it has changed. Now is a time where it is a good tool to use because, like I said, and I'll say it again, you have got a buyer, a cash buyer. You don't have to worry about whether that chain is going to fall apart. It's a guaranteed chain. Also, it's really important because when you're discussing these mortgage rates and mortgages with your IFA while your house is on the market, it's a big question mark because you don't know what price you're going to achieve. If you do a part exchange, you know your price. So you're discussing your mortgage rates with accurate figures.
The way that your property then is valued by Stuart Milne, if I'm doing a part exchange, tell me about that, how that process works.
So we will instruct an independent estate agent. So one independent estate agent and one surveyor who will come out, and they basically be like John's firm would come out and, as they would if you were going to be selling independently anyway. Yeah. No cost to you. You don't have to pay anything for that to happen. We will share those figures with you that come back. So basically it's just a wee report that comes back to us and lets us know what the value of the home is, what it's likely to sell at in 8 to 10 weeks, and then what would be like a for sale figure. Now the for sale figure is really for our benefit. So if we're going to buy it in, then what is the least price we're going to take for it? That's just for us. That doesn't affect what we're going to offer you. Once we have all that information, then we will put an offer forward for the home. Now that offer is not. I know I'm having a bit of a tongue-in-cheek moment here, but people say cheeky offers. You're always going to get a cheeky offer from a builder, but it's not the case. It's I've seen cases where, in fact, loads of cases where we have been able to achieve full home report for these people. And one thing I think is quite unique to Stuart Milne, I'm going to caveat that with I think it's unique to Stuart Milne, is that we don't ever look to make money on homes that we buy in for part exchange. I think, and I always really want to stress it to people because I think people think, it's a quick way for you to make a couple of £1,000s on my home. I've done all this work to my home and it's so personal to me and I'm a way to sell it and you're a way to make money. That's not how it works. So once we give you an offer, anything that we make above that, minus what our fees and outlays would be to the estate agent, is given straight back to you. So there was a time, about 5 years ago, was it, that I was able to make a call to someone and say, we're going to be giving you a check for £20,000 because we'd made over and the house just went. You never know what's going to happen when you put a house on the market, but it just flew. And we had a closing date and it achieved £20,000 over. So again, minus our fees and outlays, that went right back to the buyer.
Fantastic. So are you saying that I still need to cut my grass and stick the bread in the oven and do all that with a part exchange, or can I forget about that?
No. Yeah, I would say all the points that John said before are relevant when you are getting a builder out or potentially looking to do a part exchange. I mean, in my years going out to see houses for part exchange, I've seen both ends of the spectrum. Some, have been quite shocking, but on the whole, people know. They have it all. I always say to them, don't worry too much. I'm only coming in to have a quick look around, but it's pristine and they've got it all looking ready for photographs, and it doesn't need to be like that. Yeah, it's all still very relevant, like John said earlier, because you're going to be looking to put your house on the market. So anything that you can do to maximize the value is going to help.
Fantastic. That's been hugely interesting. I've learned a lot on that one. Before we wrap up, is there one key takeaway from each of you about maximizing the sales price of your property?
I think for me, it's all very well maximizing sale price, and I think it's really important, but I think having realistic expectations on that is really, really important, especially in the markets that we're in at the moment. The post-COVID market, it's not as buoyant as it has been, and I think buyers will take a while to kind of get to that stage. I work up in Aberdeen, so we have been in a challenging market for a bit longer, but I know certainly the Central Belt is toughening up a little bit too. I think just maximizing value, yes, but manage your expectations.
Yeah, from my end, I honestly believe it's getting the right person to help you sell the property, because everybody's got some idea about decluttering and curbside appeal, etc. Get a local agent who's got expertise and is busy. They've sold decent properties like yours in your local area. I honestly think that makes the biggest difference to what you'll end up getting.
Fantastic. Thank you very much to both John and Tanya for joining us on this episode of Homebuyer Show Scotland Stories. I hope you find it useful. I know I did. Thanks to everyone for listening. If you're a homebuyer or seller interested in attending Homebuyer Show Scotland, you can register for your free ticket on our website, homebuyershowscotland.com. Or if you work for a business which offers a service or solution which can help homebuyers and want to partner with us, or have an exhibition space to meet homebuyers on the day, please get in touch through the contact page. You can also follow Homebuyer Show Scotland news on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks.